This is the story of baby Lindy and all the times we've been there for her. We were there in the beginning and when it became official.
Baby, congratulations.
We were there for Mom every day. We were there when big sister-to-be did
There's
this.
like 3 beads. She's been...
It's 2.
It's 2 beads.
When Dad did this.
Cheers, madame.
And when this happened, we were there too. So here we are. Baby Lindy will be born in exactly 10 minutes. Which is why we've organized an ambulance.
Just breathe, Dad.
To help get them to the hospital on time. We were there for baby Lindy. And we will be there for you.
And our next speaker is Sue Krawitz. She is going to be talking about creating your family through adoption. If you can look at the topics that we've been doing, they're very interlinked, so that when you make that decision, you know exactly what you are getting yourself into, and to make the selection productive for you and relevant. Sue is a founding member of Impilo, Child Protection and Adoption Services. She is a social worker by profession and has been specializing in adoption for over 30 years. She has worked with birth moms, adopters, adoptees, and sees herself as an advocate for the rights of children with a focus on abundant, representing these issues at national and international levels.
Hi, everybody. I'm not using a presentation, so I'm just really here to talk to you. Yes, adoption is sort of the last option that people will consider. And that's important for us to know that when you decide to adopt, you've actually gone through all of the processes and that you feel comfortable with this option. It's a wonderful journey, but it's complex. Parenting is complex, but adoption has its added complexities. When we talk about adoption, we have a triad. The triad is the child, the birth mother, and the adoptees. So let's start with the mother, because the mother is the one where the baby is created, she carries the child, etc. Now, in an ideal world, we would like to counsel mothers while they're pregnant, while they're carrying the baby, so that we can assist them in making a decision around the adoption. It's a difficult decision to make. Yes, babies are left in the veldt on rubbish dumps. Babies are often just handed over by the moms, but never, ever do these mothers not suffer and think with great difficulty about their decision. We have a crisis in this country around teen pregnancies. I'm sure you've seen that everywhere. And within that crisis is children having children. So we have your 13-year-olds, your 16-year-olds, your 15-year-olds having babies. And that's a problem all over the country. And then we have a problem of abandoned children, where mothers don't know where to go for help. They don't know what to do. So we're not telling them, we're not getting to them to say there are choices. You can make a decision for what's best for you and for your child. So when we have the option to get to these moms, we explain to them exactly what their rights are. They have legal rights, All of what we do is governed by the Children's Act, every single thing that we do. And these women have rights. And their rights only terminate when they have signed consent to an adoption in front of a magistrate, and 60 days has passed, then their rights are terminated. They've given up the opportunity to be the parent of that particular child. Or if they abandon the child, or if the court decides they're not fit to be parents. So the mother, now we talk a lot about the mother, we don't talk much about the father, because fathers are unfortunately absent. It's a South African issue, and with adoption, we don't often get to see the fathers. If we can, of course, we like to work with them as well. So these moms are in a crisis. What are they going to do? Are they going to leave the baby somewhere in the veld? Are they going to come forward and ask for help during the pregnancy? Are they going to tell the social worker afterwards, I can't keep this child, you sort this out? So we need to get to them, we need to get a history, because that's important for the adopters. What's the background of this child? Do we have the opportunity to get that background? Where is she from? What schools did she go to? What's her health issues? What's her family's health issues? What have her previous relationships been? So we do a whole process of trying to gather as much information as we can. Now, why do we do that? We do that because we want to be able to match the child into the appropriate family. And we also do it because we want the child to have that information. So all of that is for the child. You know, your mom did this because of X, Y, and Z. She wanted the best for you. She wasn't able to keep you, and these are her reasons. So we need to gather as much information as we possibly can. Now, prenatal care is not always great. In fact, often the moms get very little prenatal care and just about no antenatal. The hospitals don't treat them well. They're quite abusive to them. And what we would then do is to help them to understand what's happening to their bodies, what's going on, you know, post-birth, what to expect, pre-birth. So we will work with them not only in terms of their rights, but also in terms of them as a person and their relationships and their future. Because you want your mom to be okay at the end of this. We want everybody to be okay. Otherwise, what was the point? So the mothers have the right to sign consent at a magistrate's court, and then there's a 60-day cooling off period. So during that time, the child's not available for adoption. So if somebody says you take the baby from the hospital, it's yours, don't believe them. You have to work with an accredited, registered organization or social worker in private practice or the Department of Social Development. Make sure that they have the right accreditation. It's extremely important because you can be taken for a ride. There's been a bit of press about a colleague who really was not doing the right things. So it's controlled by law. We're told what to do every step of the way. We have guidelines, we have experience, we know what to do. Now this child comes into the world. So we have to make sure the child becomes a legal entity. So if that baby is found over there, whose baby is that? What's this child's name? Who's the mother? Who's the father? We don't know. We work with the police. We would do searches. We would try and find out in communities. We need to give that child an identity. every child must have a birth certificate to be a legal entity. You can't make decisions about something that doesn't exist. Like we were saying, I think the lawyer was mentioning something about the child has to be born to be able to be dealt with. So our job is to take the child through the system to make the best decision for the child. So, does the child have any special medical issues? We do medicals. We look at the development of the child. We look at the age of the child. We look at the needs. We look at, is the mother around? Isn't the mother around? Now, obviously, mother can decide to keep her child. She can decide to give it to her family, or she can go for adoption. And that's a process that we'll help them with, so that at the end of the day, the child becomes adoptable. This is the word. The child cannot be placed with you until it's adoptable legally. So everything has to be done so that they're not going to come and take the child away from you. In the old days, we used to do that, and I unfortunately had to take a child away. It's the worst experience of my life. So you don't want to do that to anybody in this process. So when you get a child as an adopter, you must know the legal issues are dealt with. This is, the child is now free for adoption. And then, of course, we move into the process of placing the children. Now, you as an adopter, that's another whole process. You have to be screened and assessed and considered fit and proper in terms of the law for adoption. That means that you have to have been psychologically assessed. Are you stable? Are you able to cope? Do you have any abnormalities? Doesn't mean to say we'll throw you out, but what's the seriousness of it? And how aware are you of it? Medical. Are you medically fit? Now, if you've got cancer right now, you're not medically fit, because we don't know what your prognosis is. You can come to me in a couple of years after your diagnosis, and we'll see where you are. Do you have other serious issues? Are you an alcoholic? Are you a drug addict? Do you have issues that will exclude you from being a parent, a competent, able-bodied parent? Someone in a wheelchair can be a parent. Someone with diabetes can be a parent. It doesn't mean that you'd be completely excluded, but what is the diagnosis? What is the prognosis? We look at your financials. We look at, are you financially able to cope? We're not looking at what you earn. We're looking at, can you cope with raising a child with what you earn? We look at your marital, your relationship, whether you're single, if you have relationships, whether you're cohabiting, same sex, etc. We would look at that, assess that. Home visits, we come and look at your house. Is it suitable? Does it have place for a child? And we look at your motivation. Why do you want to do this? And you need to be clear why you want to adopt. If you're not clear, you're not ready. And what do I want to adopt? A boy, a girl, a black child, a child that looks like me, a child that doesn't look like me, etc., a child with disabilities, etc. And you would think, but if I was having a child, I wouldn't have to make these choices. But you're not having a child, so you have to make those choices. You have to think about what you can cope with. Yes, I can cope with an HIV-positive child. Yes, I can cope with a child who's got a cleft palate. Or no, I can't. I want a healthy boy or a girl. I want a child that looks like me because of ABC. Now, most of the children we deal with, unfortunately, are black children. When I started doing this 25 years ago, there were no black children for adoption. Only white children. A couple of Indian, couple of colored. Why? The political landscape of our country has changed. So we're a reflection of that. You got to think, can I deal with an abandoned baby? Can I take a child that I know nothing about? Can I handle that? Or do I need to know something? There are different opinions, different views on that. So we ask you to think about all these things. Medicals are done. We then do what we call an educational session. We bring a mom to talk to you who's given up a child, so she can share with you how she felt. We bring an adopter, an adoptee. It's very real. How do I tell this child they're adopted? When? What? Who do I tell? You know, all of these questions that float around, that's when we prepare and educate you so that you're ready. We don't know if you're going to listen to us, but we need to know that we've given you that information. So that adoption is an added factor to raising a child. It's an additional issue you have to deal with. If the child looks like you or doesn't look like you, there's still additional issues. Last year I was in a conference in Denmark, and they had this panel of women and men who were adopted to Danish families from Sri Lanka, from Pakistan, from Burkina Faso. Obviously they looked different. And there at the end sat this very European looking woman who looked like Danish people. And she had had the hardest time of all, because nobody recognized she was different. And so I felt so sad for her, because if I've adopted a child that doesn't look like me, it's in my face. It's in your face, it's everywhere. I've got to deal with it. But if the child looks like me, it's much easier to kind of push that down. And here was an adult who'd really had a hard time because nobody recognized that she was adopted. So yes, it comes with abandonment issues. It comes with neglect issues that are, why did my mother leave me? So as a parent, you're the one who has to help your child to come to terms and to be accepted, and accepting and answer their questions. Because the questions will come at odd times, or they'll never come. Sometimes children don't ask, they accept it. Now, I've been around a long time, so now I'm seeing the adults coming back and saying, I was adopted 20 years ago. What can you tell me? I want to find out. I want to see if I can find my mother. We have to counsel and prepare them, and it's got nothing to do with their adoptive parents. I'm not adopted. I don't know what it feels like to be adopted. You as a parent are not adopted. You don't know what it feels like. It's like infertility and support groups. You've got to talk to people who know, who've been through it. I can't assume because I've raised you, I know how you feel. I don't. So these children need their space to see if they want to search, if they don't want to search, if they find a mother that is not interested or is overbearing. How are you going to deal with all of it? So the adoptive parents have the biological parent in their life all the time because it's the parent of your child biologically. So you raise the child, it takes on your ways, it starts talking like you, mannerisms like you, but there's a mother that gave birth to that child, and at some point she has to be recognized. Whether it's a adoption day, you celebrate adoption day, whether it's a picture of her, yes, that's the mommy whose tummy you grew in, etc., etc. So we help you with all of that. We take you through the entire process. We are, how much time have I got? 2 minutes. Okay, so we are accredited to do national adoptions and inter-country. We don't bring babies in. We have been asked by the department to do adoptions from India. And unfortunately, that there is an organization who's accredited, but they can't cope. So they asked us, and at that time, they stopped us because I said we needed to charge fees. So he cut it. But I want to go back to it because I know it's a big issue for South African Indian families to have children that look like them, and that's okay. You don't have to adopt transracially if it's not right for you. I can't force you to do that. It has to be your decision. And you can't take a child because there's nothing else. Don't ever make that decision because it's right for you. And be selfish, because ultimately it'll come back to bite you. So we have a team of social workers who screen and assess you. We obviously have children in our system who become available, and then we look at matches. Let's say you've said, I want a girl under this age. Okay, so which babies have now become available? Is this a good match? We present it. We medically assess every single child so that you're not going to get a child with problems that we didn't disclose to you. Yes, the child can develop problems later on. We can't be in control of that. But we can't place a child with you that has fetal alcohol syndrome, and we didn't know that. It's our job to make sure we know that. It's a complex process, but it's a beautiful journey, and it's a way of just being fulfilled, of giving a child an opportunity to be whatever they are able to be. And we see many, many, many happy stories. We have a 98% success rate. So this is over 20 years. And, 2% that are broken down have been quite serious situations. But we do place children overseas because we unfortunately don't find a lot of South Africans who want to adopt children with special needs. So a lot of them go overseas. That's another whole complex process that's regulated by a lot of international law. So we're available. You can find us on Facebook, on the internet. I'm not the one who screens you. We've got a social worker called Pam who does our intakes for that. She's on a holiday, but she's around. And any questions, please? Do we have any questions? Yes, we've got somebody here.
Hi, Sue.
Hi.
I've got two questions.
Yes.
So one of my questions is that you see a lot of, for instance, Caucasian couples adopting a black child. I wanted to ask you, is that something that, because there aren't a lot of white children to adopt, and how is it that there's so many, of course, you've got a lot of black children, but even in today's time, it's still quite a shock to see that, and you're like, oh, why didn't they get a white child? So I just wanted to understand the process of that there's no one else to adopt, and coming from an org donor background where people are able to select what they want, and with adoption, here is what is presented to you.
No. You will select. You will choose. So if you've said, I want a child that looks like me, we're not going to force you to take a child that doesn't look like you. Okay. But why? We have more black people in South Africa. Many, many more than the other races. Hence, more black children. We have more poverty in the black community, more, unfortunately. So there are more children available. There are, of course, Indian, colored, and white children, but they're less. So if you come to me and say, I want to adopt a white baby, we may not accept you because we have so few. I'm going to say to you, yeah, sure. And in 5 years, we still haven't found a white baby for you. There are very few. But the people who are adopting transracially have no issue with the color of the child. And we screen, assess, that very, very, very carefully, because it can't come out later on that you're actually a bit of a racist and you're not comfortable with your child. You know, I think Indian families have quite a hard time with taking children who don't look like them, not only because of them, but also because of their extended families. This child's not adopted by me. It's my whole family, and they must be comfortable with what I've done. But unfortunately, we have a lot of black children available.
Thank you for answering my question.
Pleasure.
Another one.
Yes.
I said I have 2 questions. The other one, I wanted to ask you, through the screening process, if I come and I say I want to adopt a child, how do you then know that I'm not lying about my my background or how I live my life?
Police clearances, character references, financial records, medical, psychological, relationship assessments, home visits, seeing extended families, separating you from your partners, assessing you individually. Yes. Can we be wrong? Of course, we're not. You know, but the court relies on us to make the decision and to present to the court that these are fit and proper people. Do we make mistakes? Yes, I'm sure we do. But the screening's quite vigorous, so you're probably not going to get through it if you know, the minute you say blood tests, police clearances, people start drifting off. They don't want to be put into that if there are issues. Yeah, put through that.
Is there any other questions for Sue?
No, so you can find us, as I said, on the internet, or you can give us a call or email.
And you've got a stand here, so you can get the
you can get
leaflets
some
that you can
benefit.
take. I have also been through the adoption process, so I've done it from a personal point of view. If you've got any questions for me about how the process is as an adoptive parent, then please find me and chat to me about it as well. Thank you so much, Sue. We
Pleasure.
appreciate it.
Yeah.